ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فإن خير الكلام كلام الله وخير الهدى هدى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. We began the chapter number 9 last week. We dealt with the introduction to establish, to prove that seeking blessings and making it tabarruk is from Islam. There is a prohibited one, and then there is one that is legislated, and it's from the Kitab and it's from the Sunnah. We'll deal with the chapter itself today, and it is relatively a short chapter, but it contains a hadith that should be mentioned in most of the Masjid of Muslims, on the manabir of those Masjid. It's only one hadith of this chapter, one ayat and one hadith. The ayat is the statement of Allah Ta'ala where He asks the question in the Quran, أَفَرَأَيْتُمُ اللَّاتَ وَالْعُزَّى وَمَنَاتَ الثَّالِثَةَ الْأُخْرَى. Have you not seen, you not look at, did you not come to know of and consider the three idols that were worshipped in the Hijaz? And the Hijaz is the western part of the Arabian Peninsula, that which includes Mecca and then Medina, and other than that. And these three idols were located in that area in the Al-Hijaz. The first one that Allah mentioned is the idol Al-Lat, which has a tahrif of the name of Allah Ta'ala, Allah. So they named this Sanam Al-Lat, and it was the idol that the big and great tribe of Thaqif used to make ta'zeem of this idol. Because they were a big tribe, the idol meant something. The second idol that was mentioned in the ayat is Al-Uzza, Al-Uzza. And they made the tahrif of the name of Allah, Al-Aziz. So they called this Sanam Al-Uzza. During the battle of Badr, Abu Sufyan, may Allah be pleased with him, who was on that day a non-Muslim, he was praising their God because this particular idol, Al-Uzza, was the idol of Quraysh. It was the one that the people of Quraysh, they used to exalt. When the Prophet ﷺ had the situation against the kuffar of Quraysh, Abu Sufyan said to the Muslims on the day when he was a non-Muslim, Lana Uzza wa la Uzza lakum. We have Uzza on our side, and you don't have Uzza. Knowing that many of the companions, may Allah be pleased with him, from the Muhajirin, so he was trying to blow and put fear into their hearts that the Sanam that they used to believe in, the idol that they believed in, is not with them because they disbelieved in the idols. But instead, that idol would be helping Abu Sufyan and the rest of them. When the companions heard that, the companions said to him and the non-Muslims, Allahu Mawlana, wa la mawla lakum. Allah is our protector. You people don't have any protection. And clearly, that was the strong of the two statements. But the point from this statement is the idol Uzza, and Uzza was the one that Quraysh had. So the ayah of the Quran in Surah An-Najm said, have you not seen the idol of Al-Lat and Al-Uzza and Manat, the last one? They changed the name of Allah, Al-Mannan, and they named that idol Manat, the third one. And that idol belonged to two great tribes of the Hijaz as well, the tribe of Hudayl and the tribe of Al-Khuza'. So these three idols were being worshipped, and the people were making the Ash-Shirk al-Akbar, because this chapter shows that there are two types of shirk. There is the Shirk al-Akbar, the major shirk, and there is also the Shirk al-Asghar. So that ayat is being brought clearly because of the title. Those people who try to get barakah from trees, or they try to get barakah and make a tabarruk, they try to get blessings from rocks, wa nahwihima, and other than that. So in this case, they were getting barakah believing that these asnam will be able to help them along with Allah. It can also be a grave. It can be whatever. If people are making the sarf of their ibadat and turning their ibadah from Allah to these things, then it's kufrun wa shirk. But that's why the Imam brought this ayat here. It's clear that the kuffar of Quraysh used to make dua to these idols. They used to believe and make shirk in Allah's rububiyyah because they thought that these idols would help to give them rizq. And they also thought that these idols deserved for them to make dua to them and to be afraid from them and not to get these idols upset and so forth and so on. So that's the first ayat. Is pretty clear. What's the connection between the ayat and what's going on in the chapter? The impermissibility of a person seeking blessings from things that are not legislated. Things that are not legislated, like rocks and trees and idols and other than that. And then he brought the tremendous hadith, and that is the hadith of the companion Abu Waqid al-Laythi, who was a well-known companion. May Allah be pleased with him. His name is Al-Harith ibn Auf, radiyallahu anhu. He said in this authentic hadith that we, the companions, may Allah be pleased with them, we left Al-Medina with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to do the battle of Hunayn, a tremendous battle in Al-Islam that was mentioned in the Quran. وَيَوْمُ حُنَيْنٍ أَعْجَبَتْكُمْ كَثْرَتُكُمْ. The Muslims had a lot of people who were with them, probably the greatest army that left with them, and they really thought they were going to win because of their great numbers. We're going to help them in that regard. But they wound up not winning the battle, although they had as many people as they did. So they were going to participate in this battle of Hunayn. Abu Waqid said, we, the people who were with him, they were new to Al-Islam. This is really important to get this point. They were new to Al-Islam. They were not like Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman and Ali, may please with them. They were new to the religion of Al-Islam. He said, and as we proceeded to go to the battlefield where we're going to meet the kuffar, the mushrikeen of Quraysh, they had a tree that they were making i'tikaf at that tree. And the meaning of ya'kifuna anha or alayha, meaning that they were around the tree. They encamped around the tree. Like when you make i'tikaf, you stay in one place in the masjid. So he said they were around this tree. And this tree was called That Anwat. That Anwat. The non-Muslims took their weapons off and tied it on the branches of the tree, put it around the tree, and it was a sight to see. And this particular tree, known as That Anwat, it was a tree that the kuffar of Quraysh, they used to, and the Arabs, used to go to that place once a year in order to get power, in order to get wealth, in order that they believe that place has some special powers connected to it. Thus, he puts it in this chapter. People were trying to get barakah as a result of trees, as a result of rocks, as a result of graveyards or whatever. So they used to hang their weapons on that tree, believing that the tree gave the weapons superhuman, supernatural ability. Superhuman, supernatural ability. Like people who wear rings, people who wear amulets and necklaces, they believe that those things are going to give them some protection or make them strong. These people even believe that there was some kind of some kind of rubber band that you can wear. Athletes were wearing that at one time 2-3 years ago, maybe more than that. They would put them on each finger, basketball players, football players, and they believed that that gave them some extra ability to do their job. All of that is shirkun billah. That stuff doesn't help anything. People today still do things like that. People making millions, tens of millions of dollars, and they were doing that. And then the people who follow them, because they are their leaders, the younger people started doing that as well. It became a big thing. He went on to mention, may Allah Azza wa Jal be pleased with them, that they went past that tree, the companions. And when they passed that tree and they were looking at the tree and it was something that they knew about in Jahiliyyah, these new Muslims said, Ya Rasulullah, make for us a tree the same way that they have a tree. Make for us. That's kufrun billah wa shirk. Make for us a tree the same way that they have a tree. When the Prophet heard that, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, Allahu Akbar. The majority of the narrations in the books of hadith say that he made the takbir, Allahu Akbar. And some of the books of hadith say that he said, Subhanallah. We're not going to make a big deal about that like some people do, showing this example of the hadith not being consistent and not having precision. We say that's ignorance. So those who said that he said Allahu Akbar, they memorized what he said. And those who said that he just said something which is called a ta'ajjub, something he was amazed by. And although he was amazed and he said Allahu Akbar, although he was amazed, he also showed some displeasure when he gave the fatwa and explained to him that this was something impermissible. So let's get this point very clear. The majority of the hadith said he said Allahu Akbar out of amazement that they would ask him, make for us a tree, just like they have a tree. And in each case, you could say Allahu Akbar in amazement, or you can say Subhanallah in amazement. He did this, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he did that. The important thing that he was amazed at the situation. He, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, went on to mention, Innaha As-Sunnah. قلتم والذي نفسي بيده كما قالت بنو إسرائيل اجعل لنا إله كما لهم آلهة قال إنكم قوم تجهلون إنكم قوم تجهلون. He said, I swear you're going to follow the way of the people who went before you. Verily, what you have asked me by the one whom my soul is in his hands, Allah, this is the same thing that Banu Israel asked Musa, and the many problems that they gave Musa. The many problems, asking a lot of questions, making things difficult for him. They said to Musa, as Allah mentioned in this, in the ayat Surah Al-A'raf, ayat number 138. They said, after Allah saved them from Fir'aun, he drowned Fir'aun and saved all of Bani Israel from what they were going through in Egypt. They saw Fir'aun destroyed with their own eyes. They get on the other side, and now they're going. And they wandered for 40 years as a punishment. They never found the place where they were going. 40 years. One of the reasons is this question, the result of shirk and kufr. When you're supposed to be a person who's a Muslim, you're going to get these kinds of catastrophes and disasters that happen. If our ummah falls into these kinds of things, it's going to be a price to pay. Going to be a price to pay. So once they got past that, Bani Israel, after getting out of the water, they said to Musa, make for us an ilah. Just like those non-Muslims over there. They have ilah. Make one for us. Although they were the people of a Tawhid, who Musa came teaching them about the Torah and teaching them about the Tawhid of Allah Azza wa Jal. And then the Prophet said the famous hadith, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam, verily you people are going to follow the way of those people who came before you. He said this hadith in multiple situations, different things. Here he told them, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, لَتَرْكَبُنَّ, and he used that verb. Another hadith he said, لَتَتَّبِعُنَّ, you're going to follow. They mean the same thing, but he used different words, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wasallam. So that's the hadith, and that's the ayat of the chapter. Both of them are self-explanatory, but we have to mention a very important point about this hadith. This hadith has a lot of benefits, and like I mentioned, the community, our masjid and other masjids, should hear this hadith on the day of the Jummah. The Muslim community should hear it, and they should hear it periodically, explained and broken down, and some of the benefits from the hadith. One of the really critical aspects of this hadith is how the companions, may Allah Ta'ala be pleased with them, they were the best of this ummah, and yet they made this request. So if they can fall into a mistake like this, then surely people who have lesser knowledge than them can fall into a similar mistake. So when we find people saying things like this, we shouldn't make takfir of people. We shouldn't be rough and tough with people. We shouldn't automatically just make tanfir of people because they made that mistake. The companions lived at a time that Allah Ta'ala made it a time of barakah. He said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the best generation is my generation, which they came from, and yet they made that mistake. Some of the ulama of Islam, they had differences of opinion. If the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam make inkar on the companions because they fell into shirk by saying what they said, some people say yes. And some of the ulama of Islam said no. They didn't fall into shirk. They said what they said because of their ignorance, and the Prophet made inkar sallallahu alayhi wasallam because they resembled the Yahud, Ahl Kitab, in their kufr and what they had done. You have this, you have that. But one thing we cannot do, we cannot come and we can't say when we want to show that the companions are not infallible and people speak in a way that is not befitting, and the people say, well, the companions fell into kufr and shirk. We have to be careful of explaining their mistakes like that. Another very important critical point is that new Muslims are bound to do things that other people may not know. New Muslims that other people may know. They're from the things that are well known. And we're going to do a class on this, inshallah. I think maybe the next class, I'm not sure. But on Sunday, the issue of people being excused as a result of ignorance. People saying big statements, making things that are haram. They're clearly haram. There were companions who made things that were haram. Clearly, they said that they were halal because they didn't know. People compromise the prayer, and in their prayer, they left out things that are considered to be from the arkan of the prayer. They didn't do it. But the Prophet never told them, do your prayer again. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He left them. People who made mistakes in the salat, and they left off a condition, a shart from the salat. You can't leave out a condition of the prayer. You can't leave out a rukn of the prayer. But they did that. Radiyallahu anhum. But because they had not known and they were ignorant, the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't tell them to repeat their prayer again. People who didn't make prayer without even making wudu. They didn't even make wudu at all. No wudu. Because they were ignorant. They didn't know. So I think we're going to deal with that, inshallah, in a class by itself. Because it's issue of people falling into mistakes and sins and being ignorant about things. It has to be explained that we don't make wholesale takfir on people, because the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wasallam, they are the blueprint for success. And if they can fall into these things, then clearly people who come after them can fall into these things. And the man said, Abu Waqid, may Allah be pleased with him, he said, we were new to al-Islam. And he said this later on when he was telling the hadith. It's as if he was telling the people, don't blame us for what we did. We were new to the religion. And then he told them the hadith of what had happened. Because it would be said, the cornerstone and the bedrock of this religion is a Tawhid. Everyone should know that. How could you people have done something like that? How can you possibly ask the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam to make for you a tree? He said, we were new to Islam. This is what we used to do before in Jahiliyyah. Some of the people were affected by that. But those companions who had been in Islam for some time, they didn't do that. So ignorance will always be manifested from people who don't know. So those who know, they have to be gentle and easy with those who don't know. But it doesn't mean that you always necessarily have to be gentle. No, because when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam heard the question, he said to those people, Allahu Akbar, or Subhanallah. And then he told them, you people, I swear by Allah. And the fact that he would swear goes to show an important issue. You people are going to follow the people of Ahlul Kitab. And that kalam is not gentle kalam. So it shows how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in giving the fatwa and in giving tawjihat to the people, he was still angered by what they did, but he taught them in a nice way. And that he didn't make takfir of them. He didn't excommunicate them. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He didn't tell them, you can't continue the journey with me. Sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wasallam tasliman kathira. So this is chapter number 9. In chapter number 9, the Sheikh, he brings a number of points. I just want to read a few of these points. He said, in this chapter, there are some masail, some issues. The first issue is, it explains to us part of the tafsir of the ayats from Surah An-Najm. Have you not seen those guys that they worship? Allat and Al-Uzza and Manat, the third one. So this helps us to understand what the tafsir of the ayat is. Also, it showed that the non-Muslims used to make a taqarrub with this stuff, trees, and the Nabi of Islam, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he didn't allow that to be duplicated or replicated in the deen. It also goes at the end to show that the individual, those people, they were ignorant about radiyallahu anhum. They were ignorant about what they were asking. So as a result of that, they were excused. The Sheikh, he mentioned, the companions of this community, of this ummah, they have a lot of hasanat. And they have been promised that they're going to get the forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's not like that for anyone else. Meaning what? That if someone came today and someone did something like that, that person may get punished. In the case of the companions, we have all those ayat that Allah Ta'ala is pleased with them, and He has prepared for them a maghfirah that is very great. He mentioned, rahimahullahu ta'ala, that Bani Israel were a community that broke their covenant with Musa and with the people who made shirk. And that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam also showed for those who give fatwa that it is permissible to swear, to say wallahi, as he said, I swear by the one who my soul is in his hands. You people have asked me the same way Musa asked you. You're going to go astray in these things and copy them in those issues. And he brought a lot of other things like the permissibility of the sunnah being a takbir when a person finds something amazing or something strange, or even to make inkar and to say this is a bad thing. Subhanallah, like we mentioned yesterday, when the lady kept asking, how do I do it? How do I do it? And he said, Subhanallah, like finding having a ta'ajjud. You don't know what I'm saying? All of that is permissible. So we're going to stop here, inshallah. The prohibition of making a tashabbuh and resembling the people of a Jahiliyyah, the people other than our community, whether it is the Yahud, the Nasara, or those people who are pure mushrikeen. Okay, my brothers. That's the shortest one, inshallah. And we got through that one. If you brothers have any questions concerning today's lesson, you can ask those questions now, inshallah. Have anything? All of that is permissible. Something amazing, something that's bad, something that a person's emotions have become moved for that issue. You can say Subhanallah, Allahu Akbar, and all of that. We have the Prophet doing all of those things, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as well as his companions and the ulama of al-Islam. Hearing something like a particular Al-Imam al-Tirmidhi brought a hadith in his book, and he said that the hadith was authentic. He said it was authentic. One of the scholars who was contemporary said, Subhanallah, how could he say such a man is a man who's narrated from? So whether it's something bad, something good, it's just when the emotions get, like in amazement or out of the normal thing, it's permissible to say it. Anybody else?